So in case you were wondering, what is it that is forcing India to buy its oil from Russia and incur US's wrath? Let's tell you the numbers behind this politics. So on your screens right now is the amount of money that India has saved. It is about $5.1 billion that India saved in the financial year 2023 by buying oil from Russia. And in 2024, the number was $7.9 billion. Now, why is it that India says that Trump is being duplicitous? Because they have continued to pay Russia for the stuff that they import from that country. And what are the numbers of those imports? How much money has US paid to the same country that they say that India is fueling, is funding the war machine called Russia? In January this year, their imports stood at $196 million. In February, it was $39 million, and eventually in May, it went up to $539 million. There has been no decrease in US's trade with Russia, but it wants to penalize India. The question here is Trump going to penalize Trump for doing what it accuses India of doing and calling India not a good trade partner? So how else is US funding Russia? They have imports like fertilizers that they purchase from Russia. And these purchases also have gone up substantially. Now, the previous data that you saw was from just this year. When did the war start? The Russia-Ukraine war started in February 2022. So in 2021, if the trade was at X figure, right now it stands at 7,076 crore when it comes to US's fertilizer purchase. Compared to 2021, pre-war era, it has gone up by 60%. If you could just go back to the previous data so that we can compare it to last year. Yeah, there. In 2024, the number had gone up to 21%. US says India is funding the massacre of Ukrainians. What is US doing right here? If you could just move on to the next page where we can talk about the uranium purchases from Russia. Again, three figures. Right now, it stands at 5,232 crores. In 2021, if you were to compare this with their imports in 2021, this number has gone up by a whopping 147%. Compared to last year, it is up by 28%. We say last year because Trump has recently taken over. There you see the hypocrisy right there of Donald Trump. Now, somebody who has been speaking about this issue very vociferously, belongs to the opposition ranks, however, has been breaking ranks on this issue is Mr. Karti Chidambaram. Thank you, sir, for joining us at times now. Now, US President Donald Trump has threatened India yet again over its purchase of Russian oil. This time he says that he is going to substantially raise tariffs on goods from India. What is your assessment of this situation?
See, any tariff on India is not a punishment on India. One must realize that if you put tariffs on goods and services from India, even whatever we export to America, eventually the American consumer will have to pay for it. And then, America doesn't have the necessary supply chains to cut itself completely off from India. India is a significant part of the American supply chain. And by putting tariff on that supply chain, the American president will only be escalating the costs in America, and that will have economic repercussions there. So it's not just a one-way street. There will be repercussions in America too for this action of the American president. And that realism will dawn on them sooner rather than later.
Very interestingly, sir, in your previous reaction on social media, you've said that it is important to act in national interest and not be swayed by petulant tantrums of impulsive heads of state. Now, after what MEA has said about US's double standards, what is your reaction?
No. Every country has to act in its own national economic and security interests, and India must do the same. And for America to to tell us to trade with somebody or not to trade with somebody is not acceptable. We will trade with whoever we deem fit, whoever gives us the best commercial as well as the for our own political security and economic needs. We don't need a third country to tell us who we can trade with, and that's not how it works. America can't dictate who trades with whom, and there is no reason for us to accede to that kind of a diktat from America. And we will do everything in our interest. As I said, India needs America, no doubt about that, and America also needs India. India is a large market. American companies need the Indian market, and Indians suppliers form a very critical part of the American supply chain. America is a country which has moved away from goods and products to services, so they need a lot of goods and products, and those goods and products come from various sources, and India is one source. And they can't replace these sources overnight with their own domestic production. I mean, to set up production facilities and to replace supply chains takes a lot of time. So it's not easy to cut relationships with the nations and say you'll substitute it domestically. That doesn't work like that. And the American president is being impulsive, and also a fact that I think there has also been a bit of a cultural disconnect between India, the Indian current leadership and the current American leadership. I think the current Indian leadership perhaps mistook their joint events in the past as some sort of a personal friendship with the American president, some sort of bonhomie which will withstand any kind of pressure and will not be, and we won't be subjected to this. I think that's because of a cultural misreading. I mean, Mr. Trump comes from a certain socio-economic background. His world view is formed from that socio-economic background. He's white, he's privileged, he's close to 80 years old. Whereas I think the Indian leadership somehow didn't understand that, and they thought that having a couple of joint events will build some sort of a personal relationship with this president, which is completely untrue. So I would also say that the Indian leadership misread Trump and sort of were a little laid back, thinking that they have built some sort of a personal equation with him, which is clearly proving to be false.
But sir, doesn't President Trump's tariff move only reaffirm the importance of India holding its ground on such matters? And if you would let me ask you this, isn't this pressure a response to India's refusal to endorse his claim of ceasefire between India and Pak, something that's really crucial to his noble ambitions?
No, I don't think that's connected with this at all. That Mr. Trump has been making that claim for about 30 odd times, and of course the agenda for Trump to portray himself as a peacemaker is because he's openly vying for the Nobel Peace Prize. Whether he interceded in the war between India and Pakistan is something which I cannot. He's asserting it. The Indian government is denying it. So I have no method of verifying one source versus another. I'm just following what's being reported in the press and what each side is saying. But I don't think this is connected to that. I mean, Mr. Trump has a very insular view of economics. He believes that somehow America is being treated very unfairly in the world. He somehow is glossing over the fact that America has moved from being a goods and products country to a services economy. I mean, the whole world consumes American services, but I don't think he takes that into account, and he's only looking at it from a goods versus goods point of view, and he's levying tariffs. But these tariffs will bite hard and will hit the American consumer hard, and might even put out a lot of small and medium businesses in America out of business.
Very interesting what you are saying there, but in light of the US tariff for India, Trump has even earlier called India a dead economy, which was later reiterated by your own leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi. Where do you stand on this?
No, I see. President Trump makes a lot of impulsive comments. He has said very uncharitable things about many countries and many global leaders. I mean, he is a president who puts out an AI-generated video by which the former president Barack Obama is dragged out of a chair and is kneeling in front of him and is getting arrested. I mean, that's his mindset. So when his tactics is to belittle personalities and nations. He calls President Macron as not significant. Then he goes to London and he blasts the London mayor. So that's his style. So none of the other countries take this very seriously. They go about business with America. They continue doing the negotiating and coming to some sort of an arrangement. So we should also do that. We should disregard this comment of President Trump.
Very interesting, Mr. Chidambaram, what you say, because Rahul Gandhi and many of your colleagues do not say this. They totally believe in what Trump says. They take him very, very seriously. But thank you anyways for speaking with the Times Now. But